Hello, everyone. Today I will be talking about the demography, longevity, and mortality of bull mastiffs attending veterinary practices in Australia from 2008 to 2017. This research was undertaken as part of my honours year in 2020 at the University of Sydney when I was doing a Bachelor of Animal and Veterinary Bioscience. So the bull mastiff is a giant breed of dog with brachycephalic features, which is a result of an intentional cross between the English mastiff and the Old English bulldog. The breed possesses a shortened muzzle and a breed standard weight of 41 to 50 kilos for adult bitches and 50 to 59 kilos for adult dogs. The bull mastiff has been reported to be at an increased risk of musculoskeletal disorders and lymphomas, a shortened lifespan, as well as cancer-related mortalities. With this said, there is still limited detailed disease investigation of the breed, with no specific studies on the demography, mortality, and body weight analysis of the bull mastiff. So the objective of this study was to conduct a comprehensive retrospective EPR study on the health of the bull mastiff population. The study aimed to report the demography, mortality, and longevity of the bull mastiff population, as well as explore signaling factors such as newness status, age, weight, and color, and whether they had a significant effect on mortality in the bull mastiff. So a reduced longevity and mortality relating to neoplasms and musculoskeletal disorders was hypothesized in the study population. It was also hypothesized that the breed's giant stature and brachycephalic characteristics would have implications for the breed's health. So from the whole population of bull mastiffs attending veterinary care in Australia from 2008 to 2017, 3 different populations were analysed: the total population of dogs, the body weight population, and all dogs that died during this period. The whole population was investigated looking at sex, age, neuter status, coat color, location, birth and death rates. A subset of dogs which visited veterinary care practices for wellness and routine visits such as desexings, vaccinations, and microchippings was created. This was done to investigate only healthy dogs where the patient was examined and confirmed to be in good health. Dogs which were noted as overweight or underweight were excluded. And from this, body weight curves were produced in our studio, as well as a regression of the first and second year of the bull mastiff's life to examine the growth rates in the breed. The demography of the deceased population was also looked at, looking at sex, gender status, color, location, and weight. For mortality, electronic patient records were investigated and venom codes for the level diagnosis of mortality were given to each dog. The fine level diagnoses were then categorized into disorder groups, which were analysed using logistic regression to see whether signaling factors had a significant effect on death. Longevity of the dog was also analysed using Kaplan-Meier curves and Cox hazard proportion in R, with significance at 5%. So firstly, out of the results, the annual birth rates of the bull mastiffs in the study have been declining after there was a peak in 2012. And the Australian National Kennel Club bull mastiff registration from 1990 to 2017 has also been declining. The study's declining birth rates, as well as a recent decrease in registration, is likely to reflect the current international preference towards smaller brachycephalic breeds. For example, the French bulldog has increased in UK Kennel Club registrations by 476% over the last decade. So the whole population in the study comprised of 2,771 dogs, 25,317 electronic patient records, and 70.4% of records were from New South Wales. Of this, 45.4% were female, 53.8% were male, and 0.8% were of unknown sex and neuter status. And red was the most frequent coat color. Sorry, I accidentally clicked something. Oh, there we go. So the most rapid growth occurred in the first 200 to 400 days, with weight gain in the first year of the bull mastiff puppy's life, obviously the largest, and then the growth began to plateau in the second year of life, which can be seen here in the regression graph. And the body weight curves of the adult dogs and bitches mostly remained at a plateau throughout the dog's life, which decreased from around 100 to 150 months old in older age. And the mean body weight of the male adult dogs was 46.6 kilos, and for female it was 40.5 kilos. So these red boxes here indicate the ANKC weight range, and it is evident that a large proportion of the dogs in my study were less than the breed standard weight range. This is suggestive that perhaps not all the dogs that phenotypically presented as bull mastiffs were purebred in the study. So in terms of mortality, there were 433 dogs which passed away during this period. The majority of the deceased population were euthanized, and the main reason for death was categorized as disease or health condition. There were 74 dogs which had no cause of death specified, and the most common cause of death at a grouped precision level were mass lesions, old age, musculoskeletal, neurological, and behavioral disorders. It was also found that neuter status was significant in urogenital related deaths, with neutering protective against mortality from these disorders in the study population, and this hasn't been reported before for the breed. The cause of death in the bull mastiff in this study are consistent with what has previously been reported for disease risks of the breed, as well as disease risks associated with gigantic stature. Although this study did not provide enough evidence to deduce whether the breed's brachycephalic traits impacted its mortality or longevity. So the overall longevity of the bull mastiffs in the study was 8.5 years. Entire females were found to live 2.7 years shorter than neutered females, while neutered males and entire males did not differ greatly. And the lifespan agrees with what has previously been reported for the bull mastiff, with a shortened lifespan comparatively to general dog populations. And the median longevity varied for dogs with different mortality causes. So the dogs with old age associated diagnosis and neurological disorders had the longest median lifespan, whilst dogs dying of infectious diseases and traumatic injuries had the shortest median lifespan, which is illustrated in the Kaplan-Meier curve on the right, just there. So the limitations of the study. So firstly, the data was limited by incomplete records, resulting in 16.2% of dogs which weren't given a diagnosis of death. Also, when owners and veterinarians had opted for euthanasia, there was often not further investigation or clinical recording. So there was definitely an underrepresentation of certain disorders. For example, many mass lesions presented to veterinary practices were not investigated further before euthanasia or death occurred, that therefore there would be an underrepresentation of specific neoplastic disorders such as lymphomas or osteosarcomas. Additionally, the time of neutering was not known. So whilst neutering was found to be protective against urogenital causes of death, the implications of long-term presence or absence of sex hormones remain on the longevity and mortality of bull mastiffs remains unknown. And lastly, the study is only representative of dogs which attended VetCompass participating practices and does not represent bull mastiffs which did not receive veterinary care prior to death or died at home. So this is an example of an interactive resource on the UK VetCompass page, which uses data from an EPR study on the German Shepherd, its disease and mortality. And it provides health information on the breed and is accessible to veterinarians, owners, as well as the general public. I think that the information from my study could be used in a similar way. So informed decisions on bull mastiff's health could be made more easily. Additionally, the information from my study could be used in breed health programs, breeding guides, and assist with the development and recommendation of appropriate nutritional diets for the breed. So in conclusion, the current study successfully represents the largest analysis of demography, mortality, and longevity of bull mastiffs attending veterinary practices. The study was also successful in providing novel information regarding the growth and body weight of the bull mastiff. The information is very useful to improving health and welfare of the breed. And so those are my acknowledgements. So I'd like to acknowledge Vet Compass, as well as Flora's Fan, Ogtrop and Xiao Li, who helped me with my statistical analysis, as well as the ethics approval through the University of Sydney. And those are some references. That's it.
Thanks, Abigail. That was amazing. Such a lot of work has gone into that. So I'm so impressed. Sorry, we just have one quick question from Roseanne. Well, it's yes, well done, Abigail. Can you please comment on the relatively low % of dogs that were neutered, which differs from other breeds?
Yeah, so in both the general population as well as the deceased dog population, there were about equal numbers of both neutered and entire dogs, which does differ a lot from the general population of dogs. I'm not quite sure why that was. I think maybe perhaps it has something to do with perhaps some of the dogs were like breeding dogs or used for breeding. I know that's why there were like a high instance of urogenital deaths, because the number one cause of urogenital deaths in the bull mastiffs was because of pyometra. So that I think that's why as well, that's why it was significant that neutering protected against that cause of death. So
Yeah, thanks, Abigail. It's really interesting. I guess we don't know a lot of the kind of background of what's happening, but these are good ways of flagging questions for differences.